Jason prided himself on success. Fancy car, expensive suit, perfect life. When a tired waitress mixed up his order, he humiliated her in front of everyone. But later that night, he saw her again, feeding someone behind a dark alley. What he discovered shattered his arrogance and made him realize that true worth isn't measured by money, but by heart. Jason Reed's laughter filled the upscale restaurant. He leaned back in his chair, tapping his gold watch, surrounded by colleagues celebrating another deal closed. At 35, he was the youngest executive in the firm, smooth, confident, and known for one thing: getting what he wanted fast. Their waitress, Lena, moved from table to table with visible exhaustion. Her hair was tied loosely, her apron slightly stained from a long shift. When she reached Jason's table, she smiled politely. "Sorry for the delay, sir. The kitchen's too slow for people like me," Jason cut in, loud enough for others to hear. He grinned at his friends, who chuckled nervously. Lena blinked, forcing a calm smile. "I'll fix your order right away." Jason smirked. "Maybe next time you'll remember who pays your salary." She walked away silently, her eyes glistening. Dinner ended late. Jason stepped outside, feeling invincible. The night air was cool, city lights shimmering off the wet pavement. He tossed his leftover dessert into a trash bin and headed for his car. As he unlocked the door, he noticed movement down the alley beside the restaurant. A flicker of curiosity made him pause. There she was, Lena, still in her uniform, kneeling beside two figures wrapped in blankets, homeless. He watched as she unpacked containers of leftover food, not the customers' scraps, but fresh meals. "Here you go, Mr. Jeffers, and one for you, Maria. Extra soup tonight." The older man smiled through cracked lips. "You're an angel, Lena." Jason froze, the sound of his own heartbeat suddenly louder than the city. He realized she'd spent her break feeding the hungry, and now, after hours of serving people like him, she was serving them too. The next day, guilt clung to him like smoke. He couldn't focus at work. The memory of her quiet kindness contrasted brutally with his arrogance. That evening, he returned to the restaurant. Lena saw him and hesitated, clearly nervous. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. She blinked. "For what?" "For being exactly the kind of man you probably deal with too often." Her smile was small but genuine. "You were just having a bad day." He shook his head. "No, I was having a bad character." Lena chuckled softly. Apology accepted. Before leaving, Jason slipped an envelope onto the counter. Inside was $500, not as a tip, but with a note: "For whoever you feed tonight, from a man who learned his place." Weeks passed. Jason began stopping by every evening, not to dine, but to help Lena distribute food to the homeless. They set up a small table in the alley and started calling it the Warm Corner. One evening, as rain poured, an elderly woman approached. Her hands shook as she took the bowl Lena offered. "Bless you, my child." Jason noticed her bracelet, a silver one with the initials LR. He looked closer. "Lena, is that your mother?" Tears filled her eyes. "Yes, she's been sick. I couldn't afford both her medicine and a home, so we stay in the shelter nearby. That's why I work 2 jobs." Jason's throat tightened. He had insulted a woman who was feeding others while caring for her dying mother. A week later, Lena didn't show up for work. Jason grew worried and went to the shelter. He found her sitting beside her mother, who lay weak but smiling. "She's been holding on," Lena whispered. Her mother looked up and smiled faintly. "You must be the kind man helping my daughter." Jason kneeled. "She's the kind one, ma'am. I'm just learning from her." That night, when her mother passed peacefully, Lena wept quietly. Jason stayed by her side until sunrise. Months later, the warm corner had grown, funded by Jason's new foundation. Every evening, dozens of people were fed. A mural on the alley wall read, "Kindness doesn't need a spotlight, just a heart." Lena became the director of community outreach, managing volunteers and turning her mother's dream of a kitchen for all into a reality. At the opening ceremony, reporters crowded around Jason and Lena. A journalist asked Jason, "You're one of the city's wealthiest men. Why start a charity in an alley?" Jason smiled. "Because the alley taught me what boardrooms never could." He looked at Lena. "I used to think success was about being served, but now I know it's about who you serve." Lena's eyes glistened. Kindness turned arrogance into purpose. And when the cameras flashed, Jason whispered to her, "Thank you for letting me find my humanity again." Now, every night, long after the city sleeps, the warm corner still glows with lantern light. People laugh, eat, and share stories. And on one brick wall hangs a small brass plaque that reads, "Dedicated to Lena's mother, who fed the hungry with nothing but love."